episode of The Breakthrough Room. I'm your host, Kristine, and before we get started, I want to thank you for listening and all the support. I don't think you realize I don't advertise this podcast at all, and I really rely on your word of mouth, your follows, ratings, and reviews. So if there's anything that speaks to you in this episode, please share with your friends, rate the episode, review the podcast, and follow. And if you don't know, I did create a separate Instagram for just this, so you can check me out at the.breakthrough.room. Now let's get started. So when I first started my healing journey, I saw myself as broken. Whether I thought it consciously or it was subconscious, it was definitely in how I carried myself. I didn't believe that I could be loved as the way I was because of all of the imperfections. I thought that if I fixed these things, then I would be ready for a relationship. Now, in my head, there was this finish line to healing. So there would be issue A, for example. I would work on healing issue A, it would be healed, and then issue A would never come back. I also thought that all the trials and the heartbreaks were lessons that highlighted my flaws and opportunities that were presented to me to let me know, like, hey, you still need to fix yourself. And then it would only be if I've learned those lessons, these lessons would never repeat, and I would be ready for my partner. I had a very black and white mentality of healing, lessons, and readiness. And it wasn't about until a year ago where I started to realize how wrong I was about that healing mentality. So first, I realize now that me believing I was broken, I was identifying or defining myself by my mistakes and my trauma. I now understand that my way of living was based off of how I taught myself to survive. So these decisions that I made in the past that ended up in mistakes, particularly in dating, were the only things that I knew. So looking back, how could I have done better if I didn't know what better was, right? So our experiences as children really shape the way we perceive the world and what it means to be loved and to love. So when there are unhealthy disruptions in that experience, as adults, we aren't able to notice the trauma responses, the way we've learned how to protect ourselves when it happens. And we only start to learn that when we educate ourselves and analyze our behavior, and that's when the healing begins. But I think the biggest recognition I had was this association to every failed attempt at relationships as a lesson that I needed to learn. So, for example, every time a relationship failed or someone exposed an ugly truth about them that in turn hurt me, I took it really hard and I blamed myself. And I blamed myself for not learning these lessons. And then I would feel so disappointed in myself because I thought I was ready, but then this lesson taught me otherwise. So here's the thing that I really had to understand is that not every failed attempt at a relationship is indicative of your healing or readiness for something healthy. Being healthy does not mean that all your unhealthy patterns and responses go away. That's freaking impossible. We should, however, be accountable for our responses and learn how to identify them before it turns into something bigger or while it's happening, which would be the ideal, right? But that's not always the case. Being healthy can also mean that you are dedicated and have a deep level of self-awareness and desire to continue working on your issues so that you can have a healthy relationship. And if you're doing this as a single person, that's great. A lot can be accomplished in that environment, but also know that if you're never being triggered, which is usually when it happens in a relationship is when your triggers are exposed, you're not really being challenged. So you don't always know how you will handle certain situations when they arise. Now, here's the thing though, that doesn't mean healing as a single person is a bad thing. No, a lot of things can be accomplished in that environment, like I said, but when your life is smooth overall, because you're not being challenged, you just don't know how you'll handle the test. So I used to think, I'm single, I'm focusing on myself, I'm doing a lot of healing work, which I was. It was very true. And then I would be challenged with something, I would be triggered, and I would handle it in a way that I thought I didn't think I would do. I thought I was better than that. I thought I was more healed than this. And I would beat myself up. So it doesn't mean that when you do decide to get into a relationship, that when you don't handle something in a way you felt like you would have, it doesn't mean you aren't healthy. It doesn't mean you aren't healed or ready. you just need to prepare to give yourself grace because you're not a perfect person. And if you are healing in a relationship, hopefully it's a healthy relationship. I would define a healthy relationship where both individuals are dedicated to healing their past trauma and finding healthier relationship coping skills, and provide each other a safe place to just be and experience your journey without judgment, but also hold each other accountable in a compassionate way. A simple way of saying that is I accept someone for their shit, they accept mine, we support each other, #goals. So I'm saying all of this to you because it has taken me a long time to figure this out, to realize that I am perfect as I am, including my imperfections. I also know that in a relationship, I'm not always going to handle things with grace. My communication is not always going to be transparent. I'm going to have moments where I'll probably retreat and freak myself out and probably blow things up in a bigger way because I'm not perfect, and these things will never really leave. But I also know that I'm dedicated to having a healthy relationship, to learning healthy communication. And I can only do that with someone who has the same type of dedication and level of self-awareness to get through their shit, accept my shit. We work together on our shit, and we love each other through the process, right? I'm not saying it's roses. I'm not saying it's easy. And I'm certainly not saying we're probably gonna, say stupid shit to each other and hurt each other in the process, but nothing that can't be undone is what I'm getting at. So I'm hoping that maybe something I've said to you has resonated and got you thinking. And maybe you don't have to take as long to figure it out like I did, and you can take a shortcut to the acceptance of yourself in your healing journey. So thanks for listening, guys, and continue to find your peace, and I will talk to you next week.